Hello, everybody. My name is Michael, and welcome back to 1st. Today, I wanted to talk about everybody's favorite topic, sprint weekends. I know, maybe I'm a little late to the party to talk about sprints and give my take on them, but while it's still the off season, while we're waiting for 2024, I thought it would be fun to give my take on what I think would be an interesting sprint format. I think most people would agree that the current format of 2023 wasn't really the best format for sprints. I think it really jumbled up the weekend and made for a not so congruent and fluid weekend. Taking a look at that current format, on Friday we had FP1 as per usual, and then we went straight into regular qualifying for the race on Sunday, which was kind of fun because it is nice to see the cars going full tilt right away. But it felt a little strange to have qualifying on the Friday and then all this happen on Saturday and then Sunday be the regular race. It was a little strange. But looking at Saturday for the current format, we went into sprint qualifying, which was really just a shorter version of regular qualifying that didn't really change any results or make it more interesting. It just made it so teams pretty much just had one run, and then it was pretty much the same. Maybe it switched it up a little bit, but I think it'd be more fun to make it a little different, such as like one-shot qualifying or something like that. Something to change it up would be a lot more interesting. But continuing on with Saturday, it then went into the sprint race, which I kind of like the sprint races in general. I just think it needs to be a bit different from the regular race. I mean, it was really just the regular race, but at 30% race distance, no mandatory pit stops or any real difference, ends up just being a spoiler for the regular race. And I think that's been everybody's biggest concern with the sprint races, is just that it is just a big spoiler fest for the race. I think it would be a lot more interesting if they changed it up more. And after Saturday going into Sunday, it is as per usual, just the traditional regular race that everybody looks forward to. And yeah, I think that split up in the weekend has been the biggest problem with the format so far. It just felt so strange and weird to go from business as usual on Friday to having this middle of the weekend that really has no effect on anything, and it being completely disjointed from the race on Sunday and have to wait a whole 24 hours until the race on Sunday. Just feels very strange, and I think at the very least they need to change that format. Even if they don't change the way qualifying is or the actual sprint race itself, I think just changing the timing of the sprint race and sprint qualifying would make a big difference. So let's get into what I think would be a bit more of an interesting format. It's not too crazy off the norm, but I think it would be a little more fun and a little more different than what we're seeing right now. So for my sprint weekend format, I would start off with Friday having a FP1 session as per usual, and probably doing it a little longer at like 1.5 hours or so, just so teams can really prepare for the weekend. I do like when teams are maybe less prepared, because sometimes it can create some jumbled up grids and whatnot, but generally I like the teams to have a bit more time to prepare for everything, and I just like the nuance of them honing in their strategies, honing in their car setups and everything like that. So I would start off with a traditional 1.5 hours of free practice. And then right after that, I would go straight into the sprint race on the Friday evening or whatever. I think this way it helps to not break up the weekend so much. And with the extended free practice session, they would have time to prepare for the sprint race. However, I would switch up the sprint race just how it's run as well. I would have it a little longer at 50% race distance, just because I think having it at 30%, it's just not enough time for anything different to happen. I think there isn't, in the current format, there's not any pit stops, there's not any strategies or anything like that, because pretty much teams can just push through the entire time or just save their tires on one set of tire, and they don't need to make any other pit stops or anything like that. So I would have a 50% race distance just to make it a little more on the edge if you could potentially one stop or not. However, I would want to force a mandatory pit stop, because I think that would make it more interesting, as well as then teams would be guaranteed to be able to push really hard for each stint because their tires wouldn't have any worry about falling off a cliff or anything like that. I think it would really encourage the teams to be able to, or the drivers to be able to push harder. With the pit stop, I think it could also be beneficial to have the teams or have the drivers be required to be on like a set of mediums or maybe a set of hards, just so that they really can lean on the tires and push for the entire stint. Ideally, I think it'd be fun to pretty much have the drivers at like qualifying laps every single lap for the sprint race. You know, maybe that's a dream world, but that's what I think everybody would like to see. And I think having that mandatory pit stop, as well as having a harder compound like the mediums or the hards be required, would make for that to be more of a possibility. And lastly, for the sprint race to really switch it up, I think I would have it in reverse championship order, at least for the top 10, just to make it a little more interesting rather than have a normal qualifying that we will just see for the race as well. I think it would be fun to kind of switch it up a little bit. But because of that reverse championship order, I would want the sprint race to have like a separate championship, just because I think it's not very fair if, you know, you completely reverse the grids and then some of the back marker teams get lucky and they wind up getting a whole haul of points and really affecting the championship. I think the sprint should be really completely different from like a normal weekend, or at least not having the same impact as a normal weekend, like how they get points right now. Even though it is like half points in the current format, I still probably wouldn't want it to have any type of impact on the regular championship. So after a pretty action-packed Friday, going into Saturday, I would want to start off with another free practice session, even though I know they're trying to get rid of those. That's kind of the point of the sprint races, but I think it would be beneficial for the weekend overall for the teams to prepare for the race. And I think the FP2 session would be just regular business as usual, maybe just like an hour, nothing too crazy, but then they can prepare for qualifying and for the race. But for FP2 on Saturday, I wouldn't want Parc Fermé to be in place right away. I would like to see the teams be able to make some changes after the sprint race and after that second free practice, just once again so they can hone in their cars a little bit more, hone in their strategies. And I know it can be fun to get it all mixed up when the teams aren't fully prepared, but I do like them to be able to fully prepare. But after FP2, I'd want to go into traditional qualifying. I think how we have it right now is perfectly fine. I think it's really interesting, and especially we saw last year how close it's getting, at least in qualifying, and you don't always know who's going to be, you know, in the top 5. So I think the current format is quite fun and quite perfect. I don't think there's really any need to change it. I think doing like a one-shot qualifying could be fun. You know, maybe they'll try that at some point, but I'm not sure if it really needs to replace what we currently have. Maybe instead of doing the reverse championship order for the sprint race, we could do a one-shot qualifying, and that would be, you know, pretty interesting, I think. And lastly, going on to Sunday would be business as usual. I think it would just be the regular race, regular distance, regular points, everything like that. And that way, Sunday is still the main event. I think my format that I've proposed here still allows for the weekend to really build up, and it's not disjointed and discombobulated from having the sprint in the middle of it. The sprint activities happen on the Friday, and then Saturday it's pretty business as usual with practice and qualifying, and then really building up to the main event on Sunday. I think it would make for an interesting format. It would be pretty jam-packed because of the extra free practice session, but I think that's kind of the point and the fun of the sprint weekends, is that it's really busy and a lot going on, and the fans would have a lot of track time, which is good. I think the fans probably have a bit less track time now with the sprint race weekends, just because of less practice time. Even though maybe it isn't the most thrilling watching practice, it is still cool to see the cars going around. I remember my first race when in Canada that I went to in person, just seeing the cars on track for the first time was just absolutely phenomenal. It was amazing. But overall, I think the sprint just needs to be different from a regular race weekend, just to make it more fun and entertaining. It needs to feel more like more novel. It just needs to have a little different edge to it, and I think that'll make it feel separate from the regular championship, so it's not affecting anything, and it'll also make it far more interesting, and people will want to tune in and spend time, because it does take a lot of time to watch all these extra sessions as compared to a regular race weekend, so people really need to be invested and interested in it. So those are my thoughts on what I think the sprint weekends could look like in the future, at least what I would like them to look like in the future. I think it would make for some fun, entertaining racing. Let me know what you guys think. Are my ideas crazy, or do you guys have a better idea? Or maybe we should just scrap sprint race weekends in total. I'm not opposed to that, but I also think that they're probably here to stay. So here's my format. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys in the next one.